I believe that financial literacy is the civil rights issue of this generation, and the color's not black or white or red or blue. It's green. It affects all of us, and based on your reporting you just had, even more so now because the economy is basically driven, the biggest economy in the world, driven by consumer spending, over 70%, and everybody's starting to feel the pinch now. No, tariffs is not typically part of the financial literacy lexicon. I do understand that a president might want to use it as a negotiating tool in the short term to try to get someone to level a playing field with regard to trade, trade imbalances, et cetera. As a long-term tool, I think for a country that runs on sentiment, it runs on how do I feel about things, and again, the economy is mostly consumer spending. As a long-term instrument, I don't think it's productive. I actually think it's potentially harmful. I'm hopeful that this is not a long-term strategy. The 90-day pause was a nice thing to see. I think you saw the markets respond to that. You know, when you say tariffs to my population, they're thinking about bread prices, egg prices, kitchen top economics, gas prices. You know, how it's going to affect the restaurant, how it's going to affect the car they're buying, or the TV that they're buying, because a lot of this stuff has parts from all around the world, and they're smart enough at least to understand that if there's a tax on that, which is what a tariff is, that the importer is going to have to potentially raise those prices if it lasts for a period of time. I do have confidence in Secretary Scott Bessent, though. I do have enormous confidence in him, and I think that he will find a way with the administration to maneuver us forward.
So if you think the Treasury Secretary is the adult in the room, and there's been much reporting about his role in implementing or having the president implement that 90-day pause, perhaps pulling him back from the ledge on firing the chair of the Federal Reserve, what has he shared with you? Has he given you any insight into the administration's thinking, what he's receiving back when he brings forward those messages?
You know, I spent over an hour with the Secretary, and it was a very serious meeting, and he took the issue very seriously, rightly so. I've known 12 secretaries of the Treasury, 9 U.S. presidents. We've been recognized by 5. I've served 3 from both parties. This is the most serious conversation that I can recall ever having with the Secretary of the Treasury on this issue of financial literacy. We covered a lot of ground. I'm going to answer your question directly, but I intentionally did not cover tariffs with him because I knew that the president has had this on his mind since 1980. He's been talking about this since 1980. He's going to do it one way or another. Why put the secretary in a position where he can't answer a question, or it's a question that can't be answered? So let's, you know, it is what it is. Let that go forward. There are a lot of other things that we have more control over, and that's going to, again, play itself out the way it plays itself out. The things that I did engage him on, he was completely transparent about. He wanted to have constructive criticism, a critique. He wanted to know how policies were affecting the average citizen. He wanted feedback on that on a regular basis. He understood that this is a nonpartisan issue, that you need, this can't be something that gets put into some partisan discussion where only one group supports it. That it will fail that way. You need Republicans and Democrats, blacks and whites, rich and poor, urban and rural. You need my population that I represent, we're the largest in the country, to embrace something that makes sense from the administration. So he's very smart, I think, to ask a group that has 1,500 offices in the country and a pulse on what's going on for not only just help with the program side, and maybe we give him some policy recommendations he might like, he's invited those, but also to help at the right time to get, this really could be a unifying issue for the country. And at a time where everybody argues over, is it dark outside? Is it light out? Is that really light? No, it's not light. Somebody's lying to me, right? You know, I mean, you can't, somebody says something's up, somebody says, no, that's down, right? Everybody's like in the business of arguing. And I think people are exhausted by it, by the way. Isn't it nice that there's a topic that actually most people agree on? And I think he thinks financial literacy could be that issue that is a unifier. Now, we got to get all the noise out the way, the political noise and the partisanship out the way. I mean, people saw me meeting for the administration from, you call it my community, and folks start coming at me with that. And I said, look, trust me, sit down for a minute. I've known this guy for a decade. He's a good man. And just trust me, I think there's something we can do here that's good for everybody. And they said, great. Well, that has to happen. Everybody has to say, this is a radical movement of common sense. This is something we can agree on. This is something we can get done. And let's work on it. And that's his view. And it was very refreshing, actually. I didn't feel uncomfortable in any part of the meeting. He was himself, which is direct and transparent. And he was squarely focused on this issue, but he also understood that financial literacy ripples out into the broader economy. In other words, he wasn't treating this like some trinket issue or some marginal issue. Yeah.
Well, he referred to you as a longtime friend in his post supporting this idea on Financial Literacy Month. And we appreciate your bringing us inside that conversation, John, because, you know, the president's surrounded by a lot of different people who have a lot of different ideas about all of these things. And there were some pretty ugly tweets that we saw. Posts on X from the likes of Laura Loomer referred to you as a pro-impeachment Trump hater. Even Elon Musk retweeted that, calling it troubling. And I'm wondering if you have any reaction to what you heard there, or if that might impact your relationship with this administration.
I mean, what I believe is that the election's over, and he's the president of the United States. And as I've said on multiple TV interviews and black urban radio interviews, if the president succeeds, we succeed. If the president fails, we fail. What's complicated about this? Nobody should be rooting for his failure. We should be trying to help him succeed. Which is exactly why I risked, pushback from my traditional community to go and have this meeting, which I thought was important on the first day of Financial Literacy Month. And luckily, I'm getting very proud of the black and brown community. They're very mature about it. They were like, yeah, it's not about black or brown, John, as you said. It's about the green, right? It's not, so go get us some green. Let's see what we get. And Dr. King was assassinated 57 years ago this month, and we were in Memphis for that, with Republicans, by the way, and Democrats, and members of the Trump administration with us. And for 3 hours, nobody said anything negative about anybody. I banned it. No hating, no arguing, no nothing. And it was about solutions and the business plan for America. And of course, Dr. King died trying to help poor whites, which is the largest population of poverty in this country, then and today. And we have a business plan we created for rural America, where a lot of poor whites live. We have a business plan for black Americans, and for women, and for Latinos, and for Asians, and for Native American Indians. And it's all published. It's all transparent. You can download it. Most people have read it and go, wow, actually makes some sense. I like this. There's something for me here. We've got to get back to that conversation, because the Bible says a house divided cannot stand. We keep on with this ridiculousness, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to worry about whether we're hating on each other, because everybody wants to be an American but Americans. We'll be speaking Mandarin in 20 years, because there are other countries that want to be us. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea want our way of life. They want what we have. They can't get it in a fair fight. They can only get it if we mess it up. And we got to figure out whether we're better together. That's what Dr. King believed. That's what I believe. So, what does like have to do with it? I mean, this has to do with I really respect me and learn to like me, that like me never respect me, right? And do we respect each other? Because, by the way, we need different views. This country is made up. On the way in here, I heard from my people that California, which went from the 5th largest economy in the world to the 4th largest economy, ahead of Japan, right? Well, California, I believe, is the most diverse place in the United States of America. And New York, I believe you guys are in New York, is the second most biggest economy, right, in the U.S. And it also is one of the most diverse places. So diversity wins. Diversity wins. And by the way, most people are immigrants, including my European friends. And of course, black folks got on the wrong boat. That's another conversation. Look, we gotta lighten the temperature, and laser in the focus on what we are really about. What's the business plan for this country? And how can we, again, this is the biggest economy in the world, and it's 70% consumer spending. That's all of us doing better.
Well, and to return to the point you were just making on everybody wants to be the United States of America, I wonder what you make of the narrative that has been working its way through financial market participants in the last month or two about the end of U.S. exceptionalism. Is that the way you see it? Is that what these policies could bring about?
I think every 50 to 70, maybe certainly 100 years, this country has an identity crisis. We had it with the first Reconstruction, which was, well, of course, we had it with the war for our independence. But then you had the first Reconstruction, which was slavery, right? That was a decision. By the way, the Republican Party, people don't know, was birthed on freedom and anti-slavery agenda. I don't know if people know that. That was why Lincoln got so much heck. But that was the first Reconstruction. And then you had Frederick Douglass, a black man, working with Abraham Lincoln, a white man and Frederick Douglass criticized Abraham Lincoln. But Lincoln was smart enough to recognize the stuff he didn't know, as smart as he was, and he brought Frederick Douglass into the conversation. At the end of the day, Frederick Douglass made him a better president. His council made him a better president. That constructive friction, Lincoln realized, was a good thing, not just negative friction, constructive friction. Then we had the second Reconstruction, the Civil Rights Movement. And Johnson, President Johnson, who happened to be a Democrat, did not like or did not get along with Dr. King. Dr. King got along with pretty much everybody. But they figured out they were better together. They ended up with 4 civil rights bills by a guy who called people really interesting names. I'm talking about Johnson. And then you had the third Reconstruction, which is what I think we're in today, 2020 to 2030. And so I'm not surprised that the country's basically going through a colonic. I mean, this is one huge digestive exercise where we got to flush a lot of things through our system, and we got to figure out, right? Can you survive hard right, and that's it? Can you survive hard left, and that's it? I don't think so. I think most people are actually massively in the middle. It's a radical movement of common sense. They want to pay their mortgage. They want to send their kid to college, right? They want to start a business or go work for one. They want to go to the park with their kids. They want to enjoy their neighbors. The diversity actually is part of our magic sauce. It's just that the diversity is a little darker these days. It's a little bit more tan. But the diversity is all. Do you know that women, in 1972, a woman could not get a bank account? Not 1872. In the second Reconstruction, affirmative action, which was created for blacks, actually went to benefit white women. And I say, bravo, by the way. Today, women couldn't get a loan unless her husband guaranteed it in 1972. Today, women are a third of the U.S. economy. If we hadn't done that, if we hadn't had that debate and won it with common sense, where would we be today? A third of all women, I think it's like $7 trillion is the women's contribution to GDP. We'd be an also-ran country. We'd be a third world country as economically. Here we go again. Half of this country, 40% of this country is black and brown. I love math because it doesn't have an opinion. Within 10 years, there'll be a majority of minorities. The largest group of baby boomers in the history are beginning to retire. As you know, there's going to be a $100 trillion wealth transfer in the next 10 or 20 years. That's basically white, wealthy people trying to go play golf at the same time. The businesses, who's going to buy them? The GDP, who's going to replace them? My rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. And so this is what I told the secretary, is you can't, I'm sorry, I didn't tell the secretary this part. I told TV this part. You can't cut yourself alone out of this crisis. Yes, there is waste. There is bloating. Let's get to that in an intelligent way, not in a the how is as important as the what. We can be gracious about this. We can understand it's not the employee's fault if they're working at an agency that may not be efficient. Let's deal with that in an intelligent way. Get that out of the way. Now let's at the bottom third of the economy and make them capitalists. And let's repair the ladder and let them become homeowners. 44% of black people own a home compared to 75% of their white counterparts. That's good for banks, for them to get financially literate, right? Then get their credit score up. By the way, credit score increases of 100 points in Black America alone is worth $750 billion by 2053. Then you go buy homes, 44% to 60% home ownership for Black America alone. That's good for $800 billion. That's $1.5 trillion of wealth creation and 2 to 3% of GDP increases every year. And then you have business acquisition. The baby boomers don't want the businesses. The baby boomers are retiring. They want to give away the stocks, bonds, the cash, all that stuff in the homes. The family wants that. The family don't want the businesses. Well, let somebody buy that business. That's $1 trillion of wealth creation. And AI, artificial intelligence. I'm co-chair with Sam Altman on the AI Ethics Council, and I'm co-chair with Doug McMillan of Walmart on Financial Literacy for All. This is civil rights and civil rights. These two things, that's $1 trillion. So that's $3.5 trillion of new wealth creation by 2053, 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3% of additional GDP. Who doesn't want that? I mean, when the black person succeeds in this example, or the poor rural white, or the woman, or the Latino, or the Asian, yes, here legally, when they succeed, all boats rise. This is a radical movement of common sense. I just think that no one's really having this conversation, but this is the conversation. And
that's why we wanted you to be here, John. If we just let you keep talking, I feel like you're going to solve this for us right now in this hour. You know, there are very few people who come on Bloomberg and we clear the decks for like this. At some point, we are going to check the markets. But while you're still with us, live from Atlanta here, you know, there's the old saying, if you're getting it on both sides, you're doing something right. And I suspect that you feel like that right now. Would you go back to meet with this Treasury Secretary again?
If he invites me, I'll come back, sure. I mean, I was there meeting with other folks a couple weeks, last week actually. Look, I'm going to give him some room and let him do his job. He's helping to run the world economy. He knows my number. If he wants to call me, I'll answer. But you know, let him have some room. Let him talk to some other people. Let him, you know, look, we have the largest infrastructure for financial literacy coaching in America. We're not going anywhere. And we're the best in class, and we're in urban community. 20% of our offices are in white, poor, rural communities, by the way. And they don't care what color I am. They just care whether they're getting their earned income tax credit, their credit score up, their debt down, their savings up, and the bank says yes to an approval. And so we have this infrastructure that's growing, 1,500 offices total, millions of clients, and we're here when the Secretary of the Treasury, and by extension the administration, has some make sense things they'd like to do that we can be helpful for. If they don't need us, we'll go on about our business.